What's up, guys? This video is going to cover another CodeWars exercise. This one's called Weird String Case. Write a function that accepts a string and returns the same string with all even index characters uppercase and odd lower. However, it restarts at the beginning of every word. So with this example, weird string case, every word starts with a capital, even if that wasn't part of the index cycle. So we can't just do one numbering all the way through. We have to have a little more thought. Let's do it the wrong way, though, just as an example of what you might try and how you might modify it. So the wrong way would be to say, like, okay, for I char and enumerate words, because this will give you the index and the character. Then we can go char.upper if I modulo 2, else, no, it's the other way around. Lower over here. And we could do, you know, the classic would be to have like a result. And then return result. Let's try that. And it might be right for some of them. Yeah, see, it passes 2 of them because those 2 had a single word, or they might have just been lucky enough to line up accidentally. Now, it doesn't tell us the inputs. Let's print it just to be clear. Okay, so if it gives you like this, well, we're going to capitalize the T, and then alternately lower and upper after that. And if we get is, well, it doesn't matter that it started with lower, we're going to capitalize the I and then not the next one. But if we get this as a test, well, we should cap this I because it's the beginning of a word and we need to reset our counter at the beginning of every word. Now, let's imagine we want to keep a for loop. We'd have to have a separate counter, and then when we check the space, we have to say, okay, the counter resets. It's going to be 0 for the next one. And I could do that, but I think it seems a little tedious, and I would rather approach it a different way, which is to just do one word at a time. And if we do one word at a time, we can do this. We can keep the normal enumerate indexing without ever keeping a separate, almost the same index. We can just do it and then put them together. So I'm going to approach this in 3 steps. 1, what's a single letter? 2, what's a word? And 3, what's the combo of all the words together? Now this involves maybe nested loops, maybe little baby functions. I'm going to do it with some little functions to show that each thing sort of stands alone as its own layer. So imagine I was going to make one called cap. This will just be a single letter, and it's going to take, well, it's got the index and the letter, and it's going to do this. Okay. That works. We know it works because we just did it. And then let's make one to do a word. I'll just call it caps. I was going to use the word case, but that's a keyword in Python. There's a match case syntax, and I don't want to step on its toes. So caps will be lambda word, and it'll do this. It'll go cap char for I char in the single word. Okay, and then we could join those, or we could keep it as a generator ready to be used elsewhere. And now all we have to do is stack these up. We have to say return caps word for word in words.split. which is to say, hey, I might get a sentence, I'm going to split it up, then do each word at a time. Inside of those, do each letter at a time, and then step back out to the big picture, which will involve a join again. So let's try that. And apparently I made a mistake. Let's see what happens. Oh, caps. No. I put the parameter for the char, but not the index, because they have to know both in order to tell a single letter if it's capitalized or not. So that works. Now, there is another way that I thought of, which is to have this just return the function, like, oh, I'm just going to do lower with no parentheses, and then upper with no parentheses, and then don't actually use it until over here. Something like that. Let's see, what did I do wrong? Yeah, that would work as well. And I think that's kind of interesting to say, hey, we're not actually going to do this method until outside of the single letter. We're going to just find out what it is. And that, you know, it's the same amount of stuff. It's about the same length. Not a big difference, but it's just an interesting angle. So now let's take a look at the solutions from other people and see if they're pretty much the same as this, or if they have some totally other idea. This one is almost exactly the same thing as what I just did. They just break it up into 2 instead of 3, but this thing is the same as this thing, and this puts them together in exactly the same way that I just did. So good job here. We matched what this person did, and it seems like a lot of people liked it. This one is what I talked about at the beginning. It's sort of like the long way that I was trying to avoid, which is to have your counter and then another counter and then a result and then the string, and to have all these things sort of balanced up in the air, juggling them while you go through. And of course, you are doing that no matter what, but it depends on how much you want to write versus how much you want to wrap up in some kind of algorithm. This one, pretty dense, putting it all in one line, but again, it does the same job. Here's the single cap, here's the word cap, and here's the overall caps of the words. And it looks like we're probably going to see a bunch of the same stuff with different ways of writing it. If you have the urge to cram it all into one line, you got to make sure that it's a bit readable. I think this one's okay. I think this one's okay. But every once in a while, you get to a one-liner that's just completely incomprehensible and it doesn't even fit on the screen. This one, classic, pretty simple, and it would make sense if you were someone who wasn't used to Python and you're used to other languages. You just want to lay out everything in the order that it happens rather than in the order that the problem describes. So this is a good one because I really like the idea of, instead of breaking a problem into 2 steps, you break it into 3. It's kind of like one of my classes was making a 2-dimensional grid of a checkerboard, and you make a single square, but you don't go from one square to the whole board. You go from a square to a row, and then you go from the rows to the board. There's that little middleman for the dimension between the little thing and the big thing. And that's what we do here. We do a single letter and then a word and then a sentence. 3 different ways of looking at it.